Question 1. A Scrum team has just completed their sprint, but the developers realized they were unable to integrate one significant feature due to technical dependencies on an external team. The product owner is disappointed because this feature was promised to stakeholders. Which Scrum principle has been most challenged in this scenario, and what should be the primary focus for the Scrum Master? A. Empiricism. The Scrum Master should ensure the developers commit to completing the feature in the next sprint. B. Transparency. The Scrum Master should facilitate a discussion on how to make dependencies visible earlier. C. Respect. The Scrum Master should mediate between the product owner and developers to resolve the conflict. D. Commitment. The Scrum Master should enforce stricter sprint planning to prevent overcommitment. Answer: B. Transparency. The Scrum Master should facilitate a discussion on how to make dependencies visible earlier. The scenario highlights a lack of transparency regarding external dependencies, which prevented the team from delivering a potentially shippable increment. Transparency, one of the three pillars of empiricism, ensures that the emergent process and work are visible to those performing the work and those receiving the work, allowing for timely inspection and adaptation. When dependencies are not visible early enough, they become hidden risks that impede the team's ability to deliver value and the product owner's ability to manage stakeholder expectations. The Scrum Master's role here is to coach the team on practices that enhance transparency, like visualizing all known impediments or risks early in sprint planning or during daily scrums. Remember, hidden problems cannot be solved, so make everything important visible. Question 2. During the daily scrum, a developer consistently uses the event to report progress to the Scrum Master and product owner, rather than synchronize with other developers. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master to take in this situation? A. Remind the developer that the daily scrum is primarily for the developers to plan their day for achieving the sprint goal. B. Facilitate the meeting more strictly, cutting off any communication that is not directly related to reporting to the product owner. C. Coach the product owner and Scrum Master to avoid attending the daily scrum to encourage developer self-management. D. Recommend extending the daily scrum to allow for more detailed updates and problem-solving discussions among developers. Answer: A. Remind the developer that the daily scrum is primarily for the developers to plan their day for achieving the sprint goal. The daily scrum is a 15-minute event for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, allowing them to plan their work for the next 24 hours. It is not a status meeting for reporting to the Scrum Master or product owner, rather, it's a self-managing event for the developers. The Scrum Master's responsibility is to ensure the daily scrum is positive, productive, and held within its time box by coaching the developers on its purpose and how to get the most value from it. Keep in mind that a well-run daily scrum focuses on coordinating the team's efforts to hit the sprint goal, not just individual updates. Question 3. A new Scrum team is struggling with their definition of done, DoD. Each developer has a different interpretation of what done means for a product backlog item, leading to confusion and quality issues. As the Scrum Master, what should be your primary course of action? A. Create a detailed definition of done yourself and enforce its use for all product backlog items. B. Facilitate a session with the developers to collaboratively create a clear and common definition of done. C. Advise the product owner to define the definition of done for all product backlog items to ensure consistency. D. Recommend that the team focuses on delivering functionality first and refines the definition of done in later sprints. Answer: B. Facilitate a session with the developers to collaboratively create a clear and common definition of done. The definition of done, DoD, is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. It creates transparency by providing a shared understanding of what work was completed as part of the increment. It is primarily created by the developers, though influenced by the organization and stakeholders, as they are the ones who perform the work and assure quality. As a Scrum Master, your role is to coach the team, especially the developers, on the importance of having a clear DoD and facilitate their collaborative creation or refinement of it, rather than imposing it. A consistent DoD ensures everyone understands the quality bar and helps the team deliver a truly done increment. Question 4. During sprint review, stakeholders raise several new, urgent requirements that diverge significantly from the current product goal. The product owner feels pressured to incorporate these immediately into the next sprint. What is the Scrum Master's best approach? A. Encourage the product owner to add these new items to the top of the product backlog for the upcoming sprint. B. Remind all present that the product backlog is a living artifact and the product owner has the final say on its content. C. Coach the product owner on the importance of staying focused on the product goal and how to manage stakeholder expectations. D. Facilitate a separate meeting with the stakeholders and product owner to re-evaluate the entire product strategy. Answer: C. Coach the product owner on the importance of staying focused on the product goal and how to manage stakeholder expectations. The product goal describes a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against, representing the long-term objective of the Scrum team. While the sprint review is an excellent opportunity for collaboration and feedback, new requirements, especially those that diverge significantly, should be considered in the context of the overarching product goal. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the product owner on effective product backlog management, including how to prioritize items and manage stakeholder input without losing sight of the product goal. This helps maintain focus and prevents the team from becoming a feature factory without strategic direction. Remember, a clear product goal provides a lighthouse for the team's efforts. Question 5. A Scrum team consistently fails to meet its sprint goal, often carrying over unfinished work to the next sprint. During the sprint retrospective, the developers identify too many interruptions from stakeholders as the primary reason. What is the most effective action the Scrum Master should take? A. Institute a rule that stakeholders are not allowed to contact developers directly during a sprint. B. Coach the product owner on techniques for shielding the developers from external interruptions during the sprint. C. Help the developers understand that managing interruptions is their own responsibility as a self-managing team. D. Facilitate a discussion with the product owner and developers to improve product backlog refinement and sprint planning. Answer: B. Coach the product owner on techniques for shielding the developers from external interruptions during the sprint. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team and is a key interface with stakeholders. While the developers are self-managing, the product owner plays a crucial role in managing stakeholder expectations and protecting the sprint goal from scope creep or disruptive external requests during a sprint. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner on strategies such as directing all stakeholder communication through them or ensuring product backlog items are well understood before the sprint starts to minimize the need for mid-sprint clarifications. Empowering the product owner to manage this boundary helps the developers maintain focus and commitment to the sprint goal. Question 6. The Scrum team frequently struggles with unclear or ambiguous product backlog items. This leads to extended discussions during sprint planning and rework during the sprint. What artifacts associated commitment is most directly impacted, and what should the Scrum Master coach the team to improve? A. Increment. The Scrum Master should coach the team on improving their definition of done. B. Sprint backlog. The Scrum Master should coach the developers on breaking down work into smaller tasks. C. Product backlog. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner and developers on continuous product backlog refinement. D. Product goal. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner on clearly articulating the product vision. Answer: C. Product backlog. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner and developers on continuous product backlog refinement. Unclear product backlog items directly impact the quality and readiness of the product backlog, which is committed to the product goal. Product backlog refinement is the act of breaking down and further defining product backlog items into smaller, more precise items, often involving adding detail, estimates, and order. It is an ongoing activity, not a formal event, where the product owner and developers collaborate to ensure items at the top of the product backlog are ready for future sprints. The Scrum Master should coach both the product owner on item clarity and the developers on their active participation in this crucial activity to prevent wasted time and rework. Remember, a well-refined product backlog makes sprint planning much smoother and more effective. Question 7. During a sprint, a developer identifies a significant technical debt issue that, if not addressed, will severely hamper future development velocity. They bring this to the Scrum Master, who agrees it's a critical problem. What is the most appropriate next step for the Scrum Master? A. Advise the developer to pause current sprint work and immediately address the technical debt. B. Add the technical debt as an impediment for the daily Scrum to be resolved by the Scrum Master. C. Coach the developer to add the technical debt item to the product backlog for the product owner to prioritize. D. Allocate a specific time during the current sprint for the developers to address the technical debt, without product owner involvement. Answer: C. Coach the developer to add the technical debt item to the product backlog for the product owner to prioritize. Technical debt, while often hidden, represents future work that will slow down development if not addressed, impacting the value the product delivers. All work to be done on the product, including fixing technical debt or improving architecture, should be transparently represented as product backlog items. The product owner, accountable for maximizing the value of the product, is the sole person responsible for ordering the product backlog items based on value, risk, and other considerations. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the developers to ensure such critical items are brought to the product owner for proper prioritization and to explain the impact of this debt to the product owner if needed. This ensures that addressing technical debt is a transparent, value-driven decision for the entire team. Question 8. A Scrum team frequently overestimates its capacity during sprint planning, leading to a consistent failure to meet the sprint goal by the end of the sprint. During the sprint retrospective, the team struggles to identify concrete actions for improvement. What Scrum value is most lacking, and what action should the Scrum Master encourage? A. Commitment. Encourage the developers to commit to completing more items next sprint. B. Openness. Encourage the developers to openly discuss their struggles and potential solutions. C. Focus. Encourage the team to focus solely on completing high-priority items, even if it means dropping others. D. Courage. Encourage the developers to have the courage to say no to taking on too much work. Answer: D. Courage. Encourage the developers to have the courage to say no to taking on too much work. The Scrum value of courage means the Scrum team members have the courage to do the right thing and work on difficult problems. In this scenario, the developers might lack the courage to realistically assess their capacity or to push back when too many items are being pulled into the sprint. Overcommitting consistently leads to missed sprint goals and can demotivate the team. The Scrum Master should coach the developers to have the courage to be transparent about their true capacity and potential impediments, ensuring they only commit to what is realistically achievable within a sprint. This fosters trust and enables more accurate sprint planning, ultimately leading to more predictable delivery. Question 9. The product owner is constantly adding new, high-priority items to the product backlog during a sprint, sometimes even asking the developers to swap out existing sprint backlog items. This practice disrupts the developer's focus and often jeopardizes the sprint goal. How should the Scrum Master address this situation? A. Explain to the product owner that once a sprint begins, the sprint backlog is immutable. B. Coach the product owner on the importance of respecting the developer's ability to manage their own work towards the sprint goal. C. Facilitate a discussion between the product owner and the developers to create a clear agreement on scope changes during a sprint. D. Encourage the developers to push back on the product owner's requests, as they are self-managing. Answer: C. Facilitate a discussion between the product owner and the developers to create a clear agreement on scope changes during a sprint. While the sprint goal should not be jeopardized and the sprint backlog is primarily managed by the developers during the sprint, the product owner is allowed to negotiate scope with the developers if new things emerge. The core issue here is not a strict "no changes" rule, but rather the disruption caused by constant changes. The Scrum Master's role is to facilitate understanding and agreement within the Scrum team. By facilitating a discussion, the Scrum Master helps the product owner understand the impact of frequent changes on team focus and the sprint goal, while enabling the developers to articulate their need for stability to deliver. This collaborative approach fosters transparency and respect, leading to a more sustainable working agreement around scope. Question 10. A Scrum team finds that their sprint retrospectives consistently devolve into a blame game, with team members pointing fingers at individuals for perceived failures. What is the most crucial step for the Scrum Master to take to improve the effectiveness of the retrospective? A. Introduce a strict facilitator role and enforce a no-blame rule during the meeting. B. Coach the team on the underlying Scrum values, particularly respect and openness. C. Cancel the retrospective until the team commits to a more constructive discussion. D. Focus the retrospective solely on process improvements, avoiding discussions about individual performance. Answer: B. Coach the team on the underlying Scrum values, particularly respect and openness. The sprint retrospective is an opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. For this event to be effective, a safe and trusting environment is essential, which is rooted in the Scrum values of respect and openness. Respect ensures that people are treated as capable, independent individuals, while openness encourages transparent sharing of challenges and successes. The Scrum Master needs to coach the team to embody these values, fostering an environment where issues can be discussed constructively without blame, focusing on systemic improvements rather than individual shortcomings. Without a foundation of respect and openness, genuine improvement becomes very difficult. Question 11. The product owner frequently micromanages the developer's work, checking in on individual tasks multiple times a day and even assigning specific tasks to individuals. This behavior is hindering the developer's self-management and creativity. What is the most effective coaching strategy for the Scrum Master? A. Coach the product owner on the concept of servant leadership and the developer's right to self-management. B. Remind the product owner that their primary accountability is to maximize product value, not to manage tasks. C. Facilitate a session with the entire Scrum team to discuss roles and responsibilities within Scrum. D. Advise the developers to politely but firmly tell the product owner to stop micromanaging. Answer: A. Coach the product owner on the concept of servant leadership and the developer's right to self-management. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping them understand empirical product planning and facilitating stakeholder collaboration, and they serve the developers by coaching them in self-management and cross-functionality. Micromanagement directly undermines the developer's ability to self-manage, which is a core tenet of Scrum. The most effective strategy for the Scrum Master is to coach the product owner directly, explaining that while they define what needs to be done, via the product backlog, the how is decided by the developers. This coaching emphasizes trust in the team's capabilities and clarifies the distinct accountabilities within Scrum. By empowering developers to manage their own work, the product owner can focus on maximizing product value. Question 12. A Scrum team has a very large product backlog, and the product owner is struggling to maintain its order and ensure that items are well defined. This often leads to incomplete discussions during sprint planning. What is the product owner primarily accountable for in this situation, and what should the Scrum Master coach them on? A. Product goal. Coach the product owner on defining a clearer, more focused product goal to streamline the backlog. B. Product backlog management. Coach the product owner on techniques for product backlog refinement and ordering. C. Maximizing value. coach the product owner on negotiating with stakeholders to reduce the number of items. D. Sprint goal, coach the product owner on ensuring the sprint goal is always achievable. Answer: B. Product backlog management, coach the product owner on techniques for product backlog refinement and ordering. The product owner is accountable for effective product backlog management, which includes clearly expressing product backlog items, ordering them to best achieve goals and missions, ensuring the product backlog is transparent, visible, and understood, and ensuring the developers understand items to the level needed. A large, unmanaged product backlog indicates a breakdown in this accountability. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the product owner on techniques such as continuous product backlog refinement, where the product owner collaborates with the developers to break down, estimate, and order items, making them ready for future sprints. Effective product backlog management is crucial for efficient sprint planning and ultimately, delivering value. Question 13. During a sprint, a major technical impediment arises that the developers cannot resolve on their own. The Scrum Master attempts to remove the impediment but finds it requires intervention from a higher-level manager in the organization. What is the Scrum Master's accountability in this scenario? A. Inform the product owner that the sprint goal is at risk and seek their permission to escalate. B. Escalate the impediment to the appropriate organizational authority, following up until it is resolved. C. Work with the developers to find an alternative technical solution that bypasses the impediment. D. Document the impediment and present it during the sprint retrospective for team discussion. Answer: B. Escalate the impediment to the appropriate organizational authority, following up until it is resolved. The Scrum Master is accountable for removing impediments to the Scrum team's progress, acting as a servant leader to the organization. When an impediment is beyond the immediate control or capability of the Scrum team, the Scrum Master's responsibility extends to escalating it to the relevant organizational authority and following through until the impediment is truly removed or mitigated. Their role involves shielding the team from external blockers that prevent them from delivering. Simply documenting it or leaving it to the product owner isn't sufficient. Proactive removal or escalation is key. Remember, the Scrum Master acts as an organizational change agent when larger impediments arise. Question 14. A Scrum team is consistently delivering increments that are technically sound but fail to meet the true user needs. Stakeholders are becoming frustrated, and the product is not gaining traction. Which accountability is primarily failing, and how should the Scrum Master intervene? A. Developers. Coach the developers on improving their testing practices to catch usability issues. B. Scrum Master. Coach the Scrum Master on facilitating better sprint retrospectives to address quality. C. Product Owner. Coach the product owner on better stakeholder engagement and understanding user value. D. All Scrum team members. Facilitate a session to re-establish shared understanding of the definition of done. Answer: C. Product Owner. Coach the product owner on better stakeholder engagement and understanding user value. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. If the product isn't meeting user needs or gaining traction, it indicates that the product owner might not be accurately understanding or prioritizing what truly delivers value to the users and stakeholders. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping them find techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management, including engaging with stakeholders and users to identify true needs. Coaching the product owner on understanding and translating user value into concrete product backlog items is crucial for the team to build the right product. Question 15. The developers are consistently creating product backlog items that are too large to be completed within a single sprint, leading to work being carried over and difficulty in forming a coherent sprint goal. What is the most effective way for the Scrum Master to help the team? A. Advise the product owner to create smaller, more granular product backlog items before sprint planning. B. Coach the developers on techniques for breaking down product backlog items into smaller, shippable pieces during refinement. C. Suggest extending the sprint duration to accommodate the larger product backlog items. D. Encourage the developers to work longer hours to ensure the larger items are completed within the sprint. Answer: B. Coach the developers on techniques for breaking down product backlog items into smaller, shippable pieces during refinement. Product backlog items should be appropriately sized so that multiple items can be selected for a sprint and completed within it, forming a coherent increment. While the product owner is responsible for the content and ordering of the product backlog, the developers are key participants in product backlog refinement. They possess the technical expertise to understand how items can be broken down into smaller, manageable, and shippable pieces. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the developers in these techniques, such as spiking, slicing, or using vertical slices, to ensure items are ready for a sprint and support the formation of a realistic sprint goal. This empowers the team to better plan and deliver. Question 16. A Scrum team has been working together for several sprints. The sprint reviews are poorly attended by stakeholders, and those who do attend rarely provide meaningful feedback. What is the most likely reason for this, and what should the Scrum Master address? A. The product backlog is not transparent enough, so stakeholders don't see their interests represented. B. The increment presented is not valuable enough to warrant stakeholder attendance and feedback. C. The sprint review is not time-boxed correctly, leading to excessively long and unproductive meetings. D. The product owner is not effectively inviting or engaging stakeholders in the review process. Answer: D. The product owner is not effectively inviting or engaging stakeholders in the review process. The product owner is accountable for inviting relevant stakeholders to the sprint review and ensuring their participation to gather feedback and foster collaboration. If stakeholders are not attending or providing meaningful feedback, it often points to a lack of effective engagement by the product owner, who is the primary bridge between the team and its stakeholders. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the product owner on better techniques for stakeholder management and communication, emphasizing the value of their input in steering the product's direction. A well-conducted sprint review is a crucial inspection point for the product, and stakeholder involvement is key to its success. Question 17. The developers on a Scrum team are frequently asking the Scrum Master or product owner for solutions to their technical challenges. This prevents them from truly self-managing and finding their own solutions. What Scrum value is being undermined, and what should the Scrum Master encourage? A. Openness. Encourage them to openly share their technical problems with the whole team. B. Respect. Encourage them to respect the expertise of other developers on the team. C. Courage. Encourage them to have the courage to experiment and solve problems independently. D. Commitment. Encourage them to commit to finding solutions themselves, without external help. Answer: C. Courage. Encourage them to have the courage to experiment and solve problems independently. The Scrum value of courage means having the courage to do the right thing and work on difficult problems, including technical challenges. If developers are always seeking external solutions instead of trying to solve problems themselves or collaborating within the team, it undermines their self-management and hinders their growth. The Scrum Master should coach the developers to foster courage, encouraging them to tackle problems, experiment, learn from failure, and leverage the collective intelligence of the team to find innovative solutions. This builds a more resilient and self-sufficient team capable of handling complex work. Question 18. During a sprint, a developer discovers a critical bug in a previously done increment. This bug was missed by testing and poses a significant risk to users. What is the most appropriate immediate action for the Scrum team? A. The developer should fix the bug immediately, as it is critical, and inform the team during the next daily Scrum. B. The Scrum team should discuss the bug at the next daily Scrum and decide if it jeopardizes the sprint goal. C. The Scrum team should create a new product backlog item for the bug and add it to the product backlog for prioritization by the product owner. D. The product owner should assess the severity and impact of the bug to decide if it needs to interrupt the current sprint. Answer: D. The product owner should assess the severity and impact of the bug to decide if it needs to interrupt the current sprint. When a critical bug is discovered in a previously done increment, it becomes a new piece of work that needs to be addressed. All work on the product flows through the product backlog, and the product owner is accountable for maximizing value, which includes deciding how to address critical defects. The product owner, in consultation with the developers, must assess the bug's severity, risk, and impact on users and the product's value. Based on this assessment, they will decide whether to pull it into the current sprint, potentially impacting the sprint goal, add it to the product backlog for a future sprint, or handle it differently. This ensures transparency and a value-driven decision for the entire team. Question 19. A Scrum team struggles with the concept of the sprint goal. They often start a sprint with a loosely defined objective or no objective at all, leading to a collection of unrelated product backlog items being worked on. What is the core issue here, and what is the Scrum Master's primary responsibility? A. Lack of product goal. Coach the product owner to define a clear product goal first. B. Lack of commitment. Coach the developers to commit to completing all selected items. C. Lack of focus. Coach the Scrum team on how to craft a meaningful sprint goal during sprint planning. D. Ineffective sprint review. Coach the team on how to demonstrate individual item completion. Answer: C. Lack of focus. Coach the Scrum team on how to craft a meaningful sprint goal during sprint planning. The sprint goal is the single objective for the sprint, created during sprint planning. It provides focus and flexibility to the developers regarding the work they perform. Without a clear sprint goal, the sprint lacks purpose, and the developers might work on disparate items without a unified direction. The Scrum Master's primary responsibility is to coach the Scrum team, especially during sprint planning, on the importance and technique of crafting a coherent sprint goal that provides guidance and a shared objective. A well-defined sprint goal helps the team understand why they are building the increment and guides their self-management. Question 20. The developers are consistently creating a releasable increment at the end of each sprint, but they are not releasing it to users. Instead, releases happen only once a quarter, after extensive integration and regression testing by a separate QA team. What is the most significant concern from a Scrum perspective, and how should the Scrum Master address it? A. The definition of done is too weak. Coach the Scrum team to include release activities in their DoD. B. The increment is not truly done. Coach the developers and product owner on the concept of a potentially shippable increment. C. Lack of transparency. Coach the organization on the benefits of continuous delivery and integrating QA into the team. D. The product owner is not maximizing value. Coach the product owner on the benefits of earlier releases to gather feedback. Answer: B. The increment is not truly done. Coach the developers and product owner on the concept of a potentially shippable increment. In Scrum, the definition of done, DoD, is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. An increment is only done when it is usable and meets the definition of done, meaning it is in a potentially releasable state, regardless of whether the product owner decides to actually release it. If further extensive work, like integration and regression testing, is needed after the sprint ends by a separate team, then the increment was not truly done at the end of the sprint according to Scrum's empiricism. The Scrum Master should coach the Scrum team on strengthening their DoD to include all necessary activities to create a truly usable and potentially shippable increment each sprint, bringing done closer to released. Question 21. A Scrum team relies heavily on email for daily communication, even for quick updates and coordination. This leads to slow responses, missed information, and a lack of real-time collaboration among developers. What Scrum event is primarily impacted, and what should the Scrum Master coach the team on? A. Sprint planning. Coach the team on using a collaboration tool for better organization. B. Daily Scrum. coach the developers on the purpose and benefits of a brief, face-to-face, or synchronous, synchronization. C. Sprint review, coach the product owner to ensure all stakeholders receive detailed email summaries. D. Sprint retrospective, coach the team to use email for submitting improvement suggestions. Answer: B. Daily Scrum, coach the developers on the purpose and benefits of a brief, face-to-face, or synchronous, synchronization. The Daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, allowing them to plan their work for the next 24 hours. Its very nature demands quick, direct, and synchronous communication to foster collaboration and identify impediments rapidly. Relying on slow, asynchronous methods like email for daily coordination undermines the efficiency and effectiveness of this crucial event, preventing real-time adaptation. The Scrum Master should coach the developers on how to leverage the daily Scrum for brief, effective synchronization, emphasizing the benefits of direct communication for immediate problem-solving and coordination. Question 22. A development team is consistently underperforming, not meeting their forecasts. The Scrum Master observes that individual developers are often working in silos, hoarding knowledge, and reluctant to help each other. Which Scrum value is most lacking within the team? A. Commitment. B. Focus. C. Respect. D. Openness. Answer: C. Respect. The Scrum value of respect means that Scrum team members respect each other to be capable, independent people. If developers are working in silos, hoarding knowledge, and unwilling to help each other, it demonstrates a lack of respect for their teammates' capabilities and the collective effort required to achieve the sprint goal. This behavior undermines the cross-functional and self-managing nature of the developers. The Scrum Master should coach the team on fostering respect, encouraging them to value each other's contributions, share knowledge, and collaborate to solve problems as a unified team, rather than as a collection of individuals. Question 23. During a sprint, a major, unexpected external event, e.g., a critical infrastructure outage, occurs that severely impacts the Scrum team's ability to continue work on the current sprint backlog items. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum team? A. The developers should immediately stop work and wait for the impediment to be removed. B. The Scrum Master should immediately cancel the sprint. C. The Scrum team should inspect the situation with the product owner and decide if the sprint goal is still viable. D. The product owner should identify new product backlog items that can be worked on despite the external event. Answer: C. The Scrum team should inspect the situation with the product owner and decide if the sprint goal is still viable. While only the product owner has the authority to cancel a sprint, it is a significant decision and usually done after consultation with the entire Scrum team. When a major impediment or unexpected event occurs, the most appropriate immediate action is for the entire Scrum team, developers, product owner, and Scrum Master, to inspect the situation. They need to collectively determine if the sprint goal has become obsolete or if the team's ability to achieve it has been severely compromised. Based on this inspection, they can then adapt, which might involve altering the sprint backlog, renegotiating the sprint goal, or, as a last resort, the product owner canceling the sprint. This embodies the empiricism of Scrum: inspect and adapt. Question 24. A Scrum Master is coaching a new product owner who frequently tries to dictate how developers should implement product backlog items, rather than clarifying what needs to be achieved. Which aspect of Scrum is the product owner misunderstanding? A. The product owner's accountability for maximizing value. B. The developer's accountability for creating the increment. C. The sprint goal's role in guiding the work. D. The definition of Dunt's role in ensuring quality. Answer: B. The developer's accountability for creating the increment. In Scrum, the developers are the people in the Scrum team who are committed to creating any aspect of a usable increment each sprint. They are self-managing, meaning they decide how to turn product backlog items into a done increment. The product owner is accountable for what is built and why it is built, via the product backlog and product goal, but the how is the domain of the developer's technical expertise and self-management. The Scrum Master's role here is to coach the product owner on respecting this division of accountability and trusting the developers to find the best implementation solutions. Empowering the developers to decide the how fosters innovation and ownership. Question 25. The Scrum team is consistently finishing their sprints early with all selected product backlog items done according to the definition of done. However, the product owner feels that the team could deliver more value. What is the most appropriate first step for the Scrum Master to coach the team on? A. Encourage the developers to select more items during sprint planning to fill the sprint. B. Coach the product owner to provide more challenging or complex product backlog items. C. Facilitate a sprint retrospective discussion on how the team can increase its sprint goal ambition or improve its definition of done. D. Advise the team to reduce the sprint duration to increase the frequency of feedback and delivery. Answer. C. Facilitate a sprint retrospective discussion on how the team can increase its sprint goal ambition or improve its definition of done. If a Scrum team is consistently finishing early and the product owner believes more value could be delivered, it indicates an opportunity for adaptation and improvement, best addressed during the sprint retrospective. This event is specifically designed for the Scrum team to inspect itself and plan improvements. The team might collectively decide to aim for a more ambitious sprint goal, or they might inspect their definition of done to see if it could be improved to encompass more quality or integration steps, thus making their done even more robust. This self-inspection and adaptation are crucial for continuous improvement and ultimately, delivering more value over time.